Hello dear friends, I'm Samuel Moore and welcome to my Study with Samuel Flamenco Guitar series. So today, I'd like to talk about the flamenco palo, Alegría. Alegría is a medium tempo flamenco form with a 12-beat rhythmic structure. It has accents on beats 3, 6, 8, 10 and 12. In other words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In terms of the key you play Alegría in, you can really play it in a number of different keys. But most commonly, Alegría is performed in the key of E major, and the main chords you use for Compás playing are E major and B7. It's worth mentioning that sometimes you voice the B7 like this, with the F sharp in the bass. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, the purpose of these sessions is not to look at flamenco falsettas or technique or any of the more formal elements of the palo. We really are just going to zone in on one element of Alegría, the basic Compás idea that we regularly loop around when we're playing the palo and we keep coming back to. What I'd like to do is establish a core idea for you to work with. And from there, we're going to build a few variations so that you can make your Compás playing more varied. So let's begin by looking at a core idea for playing Alegría Compás. This. So before we look at any complex variations, let's just deconstruct this for a moment. We're going to break this down in terms of 3 beat chunks: beats 1, 2 and 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So let's start at the beginning, beats 1, 2 and 3. Essentially what's happening here is we're starting on the E chord, and we're staying there for the first 2 beats and then moving to the B7 on beat 3. In terms of the other hand, we're just using these 2 fingers and we're doing down strikes on all 3 beats. Basically, 1, 2, 3. So I'll do that without me saying it. So far, very simple. Let's now move on to beats 4, 5 and 6. Basically, we're going to stay on the B7 chord. So this hand is taken care of. All we're now going to do is focus on this hand, and the pattern we're going to use here, we're going to tap on beat 4, and then with the index finger we're just going to come up, down, up, down. So basically 4 and 5 and 6. Tap, up, down, up, down. So if I put that with the chord, it's 4 and 5 and 6. Let's now go back to the start and play all that together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now without me counting. So, let's now move on to beats 7, 8, 9. Beats 7, 8, 9 are where you're essentially trying to get back from this dominant chord to your tonic chord, which you will land on beat 10. There are many different ways to vary this particular passage, but most commonly, the main idea we use here is a bass line. So imagine we've just gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At this point, we're going to play a bass line, all with the thumb on the right hand. And what we're going to do is we're going to move this finger down to play B, then take it off to play A, and then put it back on here to play F sharp. Now, you probably noticed there I'm holding the chord for the whole time, and there's a reason for that I'll get to in a second. But for now, just try practicing that. 7, 8, 9. Now, a lot of flamenco players make this a bit more interesting by putting a little arpeggio passage. So as they play the bass notes, they basically line the fingers up on the high 3 strings, the G, the B and the E. So they play the bass note and then they roll away with each finger in sequence. And the rhythm of this is bass note and then 3 notes together as a triplet. So it's bass, 1, 2, 3, bass, 1, 2, 3, bass, 1, 2, 3. In other words, bass, 1, 2, 3, bass, 1, 2, 3, bass, 1, 2, 3. So that's your basic 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's put that together with what we've already got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now without me saying it out loud. So far so good. Now beats 10, 11 and 12. Very simple. It's essentially a very similar idea to what we did in Soleá in our previous video. You land on the E major, and with the thumb, you play the E string, rest stroke. Index finger then catches the high E string, free stroke. You then come down with the thumb on the D and the G string. And then finally, you play the B and the E together with the thumb and combine it with a tap. So altogether it's 10 and 11 and 12. So that's your basic Compás in its totality. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Before we move on, let's just loop that 4 times. So, we've now established a core idea. And what most players do is they often, well, most players who aren't used to playing flamenco in a professional context, they basically take an idea like that and then loop around it again and again. But this is a little bit of an unsophisticated approach. If you want to get more variety into your playing, you need to deconstruct this and find different ways of varying your Compás playing. And that's what we're going to look at in this video. So I'd like to begin by talking about one really important beat in the Alegría palo, 12. 12 is a really interesting beat because you can either treat it as a full stop, an end to the preceding Compás, or as a springboard into the next one. So what do I mean by that? Well, the idea that I've already taught you is a full stop. 10 and 11 and 12, and then the next sentence begins. 1, 2, 3. Let me play that at full speed, and you'll see what I mean. But what if we want to use 12 as a springboard into the next Compás? Well, we could do something like this. Now, don't be spooked by that. It's a lot more simple than it looks. All we're really doing is we're starting the beat 10 as we normally do. 10 and 11 and, but instead of just going down on beat 12, we're putting our pinky on the C sharp. So it goes 10 and 11 and, put the pinky down and then go down as normal, and then come up again on the and of 12. So it's 10 and 11 and 12 and. Now, at this point, we're going to do something that's a bit more interesting with beats 1, 2 and 3. Because we don't want to just go 1, 2, 3. We're going to use the and of beat 1. So basically, if that's your crotchet beat, instead of going 1, 2, 3, we're going to focus on 1 and. 1 and. So you've just gone 10 and 11 and 12 and. On beat 1, you're going to tap. And as you tap, take away the C sharp. And then on the and of beat 1, upstroke with the index finger. So altogether, that's 10 and 11 and 12 and 1 and. And then all you've got to remember to go is downstroke on 2. And then on beat 3, move to your B7 chord and do your downstroke with these two fingers as normal. Altogether, 10 and 11 and 12 and 1 and 2 and 3. And now without me saying the numbers. Now that is a really nice way of looping an Alegría Compás passage. Because imagine if you play your core idea and you do it the same way every time, except you alternate beat 10 and 11 and 12. So the first time you do it, you treat 10, 11, 12 like it's a springboard into the next one, but then the next time you get to it, you treat it as though it's a full stop. In other words, you could alternate between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So let me quickly demonstrate this without saying the numbers so you can see what I mean. I'll just loop round that idea a few times. So in a very short space of time, we've already turned our basic core idea into something a lot more interesting and a lot more varied. Let's just now very quickly look at a few more variations. I'd like to start with beat 7, 8, 9. So previously on beat 7, 8, 9, we played this sort of idea. Well, you can keep almost everything the same with this hand. All we're going to do is change the melody notes. So previously we held the chord and we played B, A, F sharp, and that cadenced you onto the E at the end. What we're now going to do is change it. So you've been on this chord, the B7 with the F sharp in the bass, and as a result we're now going to go open A, G sharp, F sharp, and that cadences you back to E. In other words, and then the cadence. So just by changing the bass notes, you can vary your 7, 8, 9. Another really interesting thing you can do is vary your arpeggio. So instead of doing an arpeggio that's the rolled triplets, this sort of you could do the arpeggio as a semiquaver, where instead of going from the G string to the E string, you go the other way round. E, B, G. Okay, well, A note technically, but for the purpose of this study, the G string. So what you get is bass 1, 2, 3, and you basically do it as a semiquaver, so it's like this. In other words, 7, 8, 9, 10. So again, just by varying our arpeggio technique or our bass line, we can make 7, 8 and 9 a bit more varied. Let's now finally have a look at beats 4, 5, 6. So previously we just were on the dominant chord and we had a tap on beat 4 and then we went up, down, up, down. In other words, 4 and 5 and 6. So all you need to really do to vary your compass here is change the chord. You can keep this hand exactly the same. All you're going to do is move as you tap from the B back to the E and just go up, down, up, down. In other words, you've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, move back, and 5 and 6. I'll do it without me counting. All you've got to be careful of if you use that variation is making sure that for 7, 8, 9, you move back from your E chord to the dominant chord, so you can go. Just be mindful of that, because that transition can be a bit fiddly if you're not ready for it. So that's all the material we're going to look at today in terms of variation. But what this should have given you is some very simple but very effective ways to make Alegría a little bit more accessible when you're playing Compás, and make it sound like you're varying your playing a lot more. What I would now encourage you to do is take all those ideas I've shown you and start to work on randomizing the order of them, so that you can play any number of these ideas whenever you want. There are, of course, many other ideas we could look at that we didn't have time to today, but hopefully this should give you a pretty good idea of what you can do with Alegría when playing Compás. So to finish, I'll do a quick demonstration where I randomize the order. Here we go. Well, my dear friends, I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. If you enjoyed today's lesson, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. There'll be more videos coming soon. If you'd like to study with me on a more one-to-one basis, you can book Skype and Zoom lessons via my website. A link is in the description below. Until we next see each other, you stay safe, and as always, thank you for watching.